Our topic today is applications of percents. So we're going to be taking a look at some application problems. Let's start. Mr. Cortez earns a base salary of $26,000 plus a sales commission of 5%. His total sales for 1 year were $300,000. Find his total pay for the year. Now, commission is something that somebody earns on top of their salary. Usually a salesperson will earn a certain percentage of the sales that he or she makes. Sometimes that's given in place of a salary, sometimes it's on top of a salary. So in this case, Mr. Cortez earns a salary of $26,000, and then he gets 5% of the $300,000 in sales that he made for that year. So let's figure out how much his total pay is. So we want to start by taking 5% of $300,000. I told you in the last video we want to rephrase some of these problems so we can write them as proportions. Well, 5% we write as 5 over 100. Whatever follows the word of goes into the denominator of the other proportion, so we have 300,000 in the denominator and x in the numerator. So we're going to say 5 times 300,000, which is 1.5 million, is equal to 100x when we cross multiply. So we want to say 1.5 million, or 1,500,000, divided by 100, because we want to divide each side by 100, and we get that x is $15,000. So that's how much he makes in commission. And that is given on top of his $26,000. So we're going to add those two amounts together, and we find that he has his total pay for the year at $41,000. Okay, now this next problem, we want to find the simple interest paid for 3 years on a $2,500 loan at 11.5% per year. Now, the formula for simple interest is the principal, which is how much you borrow. Okay, so this is the amount borrowed. We're going to write that down. R stands for the rate. T stands for the time in years. And I stands for the interest. So that's how much you have to pay back to the bank on top of what you've already borrowed. So let's see how much you have to pay in interest for 3 years on a $2,500 loan at 11.5% per year. So let's plug our numbers right into this formula. We're looking for I. The principal, the amount that you borrow, is $2,500. Your rate is 11.5%, so we're going to write that as 11.5 over 100. And the time is 3 years. Now what I'm going to do is extend this fraction bar through the whole problem. So what we're going to do is multiply right across, where we're going to say 2,500 times 11.5 times 3. And we get 86,250. But we still have to divide that number by 100. So we end up with 862.5, which, remember, actually means $862.50. So that is the amount of interest that you're paying to the bank on top of that $2,500 that you owe for 3 years at 11.5% per year. Now let's do this next problem. It says after 6 months, the simple interest earned on an investment of $5,000 was $45. find the interest rate. Now, principal can also stand for the amount that you invest as well as the amount that you borrow. So we're going to use our formula, interest equals principal times rate times time. Remember, the time is in years. So in this case, we're going to say that our principal, which is the amount that we invested, is $5,000. The time is 6 months. Now 6 months is how much of a year? That's half a year. So you can write that as 0.5 if you want. We have to list the time in years. We know what our interest was. Our interest is $45. Now what we're looking for is the rate. So let's see what we can come up with. Now remember, our rate is going to have to be written as a percent. So let's plug our numbers in. We have $45 equals a principal of $5,000. Now remember, our rate is a percent, so it's some number over 100. So I'm going to put in R over 100. Okay? Times our time, which is 0.5. And just like in the last problem, I'm going to extend our fraction bar across the whole problem. And so we're going to multiply right across here to simplify. We're saying 5,000 times R times 0.5. Well, 5,000 times R is 5,000 R times 0.5 would give us 2,500 R over 100, which gives us 45 is equal to $45. Well, 2,500 divided by 100 is 25. So we have 25R is equal to 45. We want to get R alone, so we're going to divide each side by 25. And 45 divided by 25 gives you 1.8. So your interest rate is 1.8%. Let's go on to the next page. Lunch at a restaurant is $27.88. Determine the amount of a 15% tip. So basically, you're taking 15% of $27.88. Well, let's set this up. 15% we write as 15 over 100. We'll set up our proportion. The number following the word of goes in the denominator. And then our unknown value, our x, goes in the empty spot in the numerator. Let's go ahead and cross multiply. So we have 15 times 27.88, which gives us 418.2. And 100 times x is 100x. So we want to divide everything by 100, which gives us 4.182. But remember, we're talking about dollars and cents, so we're going to have to round that to the nearest cent. So we will have to say that that's $4.18 that we would leave as a 15% tip. This next one, sales tax. The sales tax rate is 7.25%. Find the sales tax on a book that costs $19.97. So basically, when you take a sales tax, you're taking a percent of your purchase price. So you're looking to find 7.25% of $19.97. So let's set this up as a proportion. 7.25% we write as 7.25 over 100. The 1997 follows the word of, so it goes in the denominator. And so x will have to go in the numerator. We'll cross multiply now. So we have 7.25 times $19.97. We end up with 144.7825. equals 100x. So now what we need to do is divide each side by 100. So let's do that. And we end up with this number 1.447825. But remember, we're talking dollars and cents, so we have to round to the nearest cent, which would give us $1.45 as the sales tax on that book. That is it for today. Thank you for joining me.